Hey guys, welcome back. Patrick here. In this video, I want to share my thoughts on Facebook's an investment. You guys know this is a very controversial company. Just again, this week it was in the media and it's always portrayed negatively. There's only three things guaranteed in life: death, taxes, and hating on Zuck and Facebook. And I just ran a poll on the channel. You can see it right here, where 20% of you said you would never invest in the company, but 80% of you said that depending on the price, you might. On this video, I'm going to tell you why I think the company is going to continue dominating in the next few years. I feel like most people don't really understand what's going on with the company, what their big plans are, and still just think of them as a, social media, Instagram type company. But they have huge plans. So even though the share price has been above $300, I start to nibble on more shares to build my position a little bit bigger. Now, of course, like everyone else, I hope that the price drops. I'm going to talk about that in the video, but just to let you know, I'm putting the money where my mouth is, right? I'm actually building a position in the company, and here's why. Alright guys, don't worry, I'm going to give you all the negatives surrounding the company, but first let's put it in context. Why is this company so successful? Well, if you look at the 5-year chart, you can see that the stock has been going up almost non-stop, uninterrupted for several years now. Of course, there's some periods where there's some dips, and 2018 was a big example of this. The company's always marred with drama, as you guys know. 2020, of course, it was selling off also, and now in September, it started to drop off once again. This is not unique to Facebook. All of the big tech and growth stocks have been suffering from the expected rate hikes from the Fed in 2022 and going forward, and that's going to affect their valuation temporarily. But if you look at the chart, you can see that this is a stock that tends to always rebound from those dips because the company has a very powerful, in my opinion, elite type business model. Most of their revenue comes from their digital platform. And what's the advantage of the digital platform is that their margin is extremely high. Whether they print one advertisement on Facebook or 10 billion, it's almost the same cost, right? As long as you have the servers, then you're good to go. The more you print, the more profit you make and the higher your profit margin. And Facebook has reached that scale. So this is the second quarter results, earnings for the company, and you can see that they had generated $29 billion in revenues in the second quarter. Now notice that most of it comes from the advertising, which, as I mentioned earlier, is mostly digital, so they have a huge profit margin on those. We'll get into the other revenues later because that's basically what the video is about, right? But if you notice, net income, which is profits, they generated $10.4 billion in profits in the second quarter. That is huge. That's why people love this company, right? It is a free cash flowing machine. And when you generate that much profits, it's very good for the shareholders, and it allows you to expand laterally and vertically into other businesses. Just to give you guys an example of how big $10 billion per quarter is, well, a company that we like on the channel is SoFi. SoFi is pretty well liked, right? And it's a company that's growing. Well, currently the entire market cap of the company is $13 billion. In other words, Facebook produces in profit, not just revenue, in profits, pretty much one SoFi per quarter. Just to give you an idea. Another company that has a lot of momentum right now is Affirm. The company has more than doubled recently. Well, it's worth $35 billion. So every year right now, with their current results, Facebook produces an Affirm worth of profits per year. And so that's why the company has been so successful and tends to rebound from all these crises, because the company has so much money to defend itself from litigations and lobbying and all of that. Not only that, and I'm not going to say that it's a monopoly, but the company is one of the only games in town when it comes for small businesses to actually advertise. Literally anyone can go on the ads manager for Facebook and Instagram and start creating ads for the products that they want to sell. I have actually done it before when I worked in solar briefly. Right, so there's absolutely nothing wrong with people advertising on Facebook. Right now, one of the things that they're really working on is the marketplace. So recently I was looking for fitness equipment. I bought myself a home gym, right? Like a lot of people. So I was looking for Rogue Fitness, which is one of the main brands. So you have a lot of people advertising, and then, for free, like Craigslist a little bit, and then you have sponsored ads. So this one, I don't know what they sell, but right here you have Rogue Fitness advertising on Facebook for you to actually buy their products. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Same for restaurants. You want local restaurants to be able to attract customers. That's how they're going to be able to survive compared to brand name chains out there. So I've never been there. I wouldn't have known about this company if I just didn't see this advertisement on Facebook. Right? So there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And the fact that everyone is using these ads to promote their restaurants and their little businesses in your local town is why the boycott last year failed miserably. There was the Stop Profiting from Hate campaign or something like that, right? And some advertisers started to boycott Facebook, saying that they were encouraging misinformation and all of that. So that worked temporarily, and you can see that the price actually dropped. And this is personally when I started to really pay attention to Facebook, because I felt like the prices were becoming a little bit more realistic for my portfolio. Right, so I started looking into it, and I originally bought some shares, very little, only 20 shares, right, at $260. I started to build my portfolio at this time. And the reason why the boycott didn't work is because anytime some of the advertisers stop using the platform, it lowers the cost of the advertisements for everyone else, and it makes it more appealing, more attractive for new advertisers, especially the small businesses, to actually go on the platform and start doing ads themselves. Because most of the small restaurants are not going to have like $500,000 per year in budget for their ads, right? So when all of the big players, the S&P 500 companies, are blasting Facebook with ads, well, it kind of prices out some of the smaller companies. But when they lose some of the big advertisers, new ones coming and replace them. But that's why the boycott didn't work last time, and that's why the company continues, despite all the drama, to always come back, because it is so good for the small businesses, and that's why the company is so profitable right now. That doesn't mean that there aren't problems. I'm about to show you exactly what concerns me with the company and what the company is doing to remedy that. All right, let's talk about the three big threats to Facebook as an investment. In my opinion, a lot of them are a little exaggerated, but the company will have to deal with them. So let me break it down and try to enlighten you on what's really going on. A lot of times people only focus on the headlines, and that really prevents us from looking at the big picture. Now, the first big problem are the revelations by this lady, Frances Haugen, that you can see here, and the Wall Street Journal reports, which she leaked documents to Wall Street Journal about Facebook's internal research. They're always trying to tweak the algorithm, which decides like what you see on your feed, to increase the engagement and make you stay on the platform longer. That's how the company is so profitable, is because people tend to get addicted. Now, the company's internal research say that, there's a lot of different problems, but two of the main problems, there are two categories of people that tend to really, really be affected negatively by the platform. The first is teenage girls, right? Not all of them, but some of them tend to have body image issues. And the company is kind of stuck, right? Because a lot of people are doing fine on the platform, but you have this small category that is struggling, right? And it's causing body image issues. And the way the algorithm works is that when you tell it that you want to, you're interested in something, it keeps feeding you more and more of that content. So if you're interested in cats, it's going to show you more cat pictures. Nothing wrong with that. But if you're looking into dieting, well, it might show you more and more extreme forms of dieting until you get into, I can't even talk about it on YouTube for obvious reasons, but more and more negative type of body image issues. You also have all of the misinformation crowd, right? You read a lie about something on Facebook, and then you click on it to see, is this true? Well, the algorithm feels like you're engaged with that content, so it's just going to push more and more content like that to you until some people fall into the rabbit hole. You guys probably know some people like those, right? Where they get totally consumed in the conspiracy theories and they don't even know what's real and what's not anymore. So those are very, very real issues with Facebook. And the problem is that There's so much content being produced, not just on Facebook, but also on YouTube, also on Twitter, right? That they just don't have the manpower to monitor all of this. So a lot of it slips through the cracks. I found some pretty horrible stories while researching for the video, but again, I can't even really show them on YouTube. I don't want to get demonetized, but you get what I'm talking about, right? There are some things that slip through the cracks that are completely ridiculous. So what this is all probably going to lead to, I don't think that Congress can really legislate and end Facebook, because overall for most people we have a decent experience with it, right? So they really need to focus on the problems with the platform, not the entire platform itself. But what that might cause is that they're going to have to hire a lot more manual moderators. So currently they're mostly using AI to try to flag these different issues, but they haven't been successful doing that. So it's very possible that Congress might force them to have a lot more manual people moderating the content and making sure the platform is okay, and that would cause a lot of costs for the company, and their margin would actually go down. So this is one of the potential threats, right? We all know this is coming, but the thing is that this is really priced in already. There is a good reason why Facebook is in the low 20s as far as PE ratio versus some of their other, like the other tech giants that are in the mid 30s. A lot of this is already priced in. Everyone already knows that this might be coming. Problem number 2, and we'll go over this one quickly, the new feature by Apple that allows people to opt out of being tracked. Now think about it this way, who's going to look at their phone and Apple says, do you want to be tracked? Do you want third-party companies to collect data on you and sell it to advertisers? Of course, no one's going to go for that, and that is a big problem for Facebook because that is one of the strengths of its advertisement platform. The ability for advertisers to really focus, really narrow down on who they want to send advertisements to, and the price of those is much higher than if they just do blanket advertisements to everyone where it's not really customized. Give you an example. Let's say that I'm into outdoors right now. I've been thinking about going camping and things like those, so I'm going to different websites. Well, not only Facebook, but also Google are going to track that and know that I'm into, I have that as an interest right now. So they're going to suggest camping videos. They're going to suggest camping stores, things like those. And that really customized type of advertisement, which is very, very strong on Facebook, is more lucrative than generic advertisement. So they're like, now they're actually going to be losing this capacity, may make it so the revenues actually come down in the next few quarters because there are so many people that are using Apple and that are opting out of those custom advertisements. And then I left the worst one for last for those of you that are still here. This is from the latest earnings presentation. This is the growth rate for Facebook as far as the monthly active users. Look at how it has really, really flattened, right? They're still generating new users. They went from 2.4 billion to 2.9 billion over 2 years. But the percentage growth is a lot lower. And there's this general consensus that if Facebook can attract new users, how are their revenues going to grow, right? The expectations for this company are sky high. And for us as investors to actually make profits, we need the company to really grow its revenues and its profits. Look at the expectations. They're expected by the analysts to grow by 39% this year and 19.6% next year in 2022. For us to generate a good return, we need this company to continue growing at a rapid clip for the next decade. How are they going to do that if they can't get new users? But because they already saturated the platform with Instagram and with Facebook. There's only two things they can do. They can buy other companies or they can develop new products. Now, Facebook, this is a very valid criticism. They haven't been successful at building new products. Unlike Amazon with Amazon Web Service or Google with all of its different platforms that they have, right? All of this big portfolio of products. Facebook hasn't been successful at doing that. Right, so that is one legitimate concern. However, they know they have a problem and they kind of found the solution. I don't know if it's going to work, but if it does, let me be totally honest. That's why I'm very, very passionate and excited about it. I do think that Facebook could become the most valuable company in the world, above Apple, if everything goes according to plan, which it might not. Let me break it down for you, all right, because I know it's a pretty big claim. Facebook hates depending on Apple and Google, right? So for you to have your phone and start using Facebook's products, you need to go in the App Store. Now, Facebook is free. You can download it for free, so that's not a big problem. However, Apple, we've already seen, are very critical of Facebook. They're always trying to hurt them a little bit. Right? They added the privacy feature that directly hurts Facebook. They also threatened them before to take them out of the App Store, which I can't go into the details because of the sensitive content. Right? So you'll have to research it yourself. But let's just say that Facebook absolutely hates depending on those two companies. And Apple's App Store is extremely profitable. These are the gross sales last year expected, about $64 billion, of which they collect 15 to 30%. So this is very high margin revenues for Apple, because what do, right? They let companies produce games, put it in the App Store, people download them, pay to play the games, and Apple just collects the money without really doing anything. This is very, very profitable for the company, and that's why Apple is such a cash cow. So you have Facebook that knows it has growth problems. It hates depending on those companies. What can they actually do? Well, what if they became the top dog of their own ecosystem, where instead of depending on those companies, other companies depended on Facebook? Kind of like the good old days where you would go on Facebook and you'd play Farmville and, everything was controlled by Facebook. That's the glory days for that company, and that's what they want to go back to. So it took me a while to figure it out. The company gave us some hints, right, over the past few years, but Zuckerberg actually told us finally the key, put the puzzles pieces together in the last conference call. As I wrap up the video, let's tie all of this in together, and maybe you'll be as enthusiastic as I am. Maybe you'll feel like, hey, this is completely crazy. We'll see. Let me know in the comments. All right, so we know that worst case scenario, if all their projects are failing, it's still a very, very profitable company, right? At 10.3 billions per quarter in profit. So I feel like my investment is fairly safe in this company. Personally, my cost basis right now is in the 280s. Originally, I bought at 260. I recently bought shares at around 340. So now my cost basis is around 280, which I would like to add more shares, especially if it drops to 300 based on, all of this drama that they're always facing. But I don't know if they'll go back down that much. Now let's talk about the different moving parts and how they tie in together. First, they built for several years now this incredible marketplace and this great advertisement tool for advertisers that is very synergistic. Facebook makes money, advertisers make money by finding new customers, and hopefully us, the customers slash products, we are getting better experiences, right? We're finding new things that are interesting for us, new experiences, products, and everything that we actually want. So everyone benefits from that. They've been working on that for a few years now. You also have the Oculus platform. I personally thought this was just going to be a gadget, right? Kind of like you buy a PlayStation 5 to play games. Well, I thought that this was kind of what they were going for with the Oculus, right? I thought they just wanted to replace the PlayStation and Switch and things like those. So they're only selling these for $299, which they're not really making profit on that. They're just subsidizing the project. And the project is massive. They have about 10,000 people working on the Oculus. So you know that this is a very, very important project to them. They see a lot of growth in that project, right? And when you think about all of it, and when you put all the pieces together, it starts to make a lot more sense. Again, I saw this mostly just to play games and as a gadget. But then when you look at what you can do with it, right? Yes, you can play games, you can do chat and stuff like that. Oh, great, that's not revolutionary because you can already do that on the PlayStation. You can download a chat program, they have Messenger, all of that. But what about if everything is based on the goggles and is no longer based on the phone? We've already talked about how they hate depending on Apple and Google. What about if now they're the ecosystem? Everything is based on their goggles, and instead of having to use your phone to play games, now you just play these games. And let's say that you want to go see a virtual concert. You just, it's almost as if you're there already. You're watching the concert, for example. Or what if you want to interact with your friends and family, right? Instead of just texting, well, you can literally see them in real life, kind of virtual life. and interact with them. It allows all sorts of new possibilities that I personally had not really thought about right before. I'll be totally honest with you. I didn't see the vision before I started to really think about it. Then you start talking about the metaverse. When you, let's say that work, right? There's Zoom right now. People are using Zoom to have virtual, conferences and talk with their colleagues. Well, what about when all of this is done through VR? You don't even need to leave your home. So distance is no longer a concern. You don't really need to travel. You can do everything where you are right now. I feel like this is the direction they're going in. And what kind of proves that and why I think it's going to work is think about the other projects they're working on. This is the DM project, which replaces the Libra. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. You guys know crypto is very, very hypey right now. Everyone's talking about crypto. Well, DM is their own crypto, is their own blockchain project. So now you're adding a piece to the puzzle. Now they have Novi, which is going to be a digital wallet for your DM currency. Okay, so you're telling me, kind of like in Ready Player One, the movie, if you guys, and the book, if you guys have watched it, you can actually live a virtual life where you can play games with your friends, interact with them. You can go watch movies and sport events as if you were there, even though you're in your living room. You can actually work remotely, using the headset. You can do all that, and you're collecting currency, in that virtual world. And all of your transactions are actually registered on the blockchain. So you don't need PayPal anymore. You don't need dollars anymore, right? Everything is virtual. And you have your digital wallet that you can deposit your money into it. You can literally, as in Ready Player One, live a virtual life if you want to. I don't know if it's going to work, but I feel like they're putting all the pieces together to make it work. It's not mainstream yet, right? Like DM isn't launched yet. They're still trying to work on it. But it is definitely the next level of tech if they can get it done, right? They're trying to find all sorts of different other companies to help them work on the metaverse. And if they manage to get this off the ground, watch out Apple and watch out Google, because these guys would be at the top of the food chain. All these activities that we were talking about, instead of paying Zoom for a license, well, you might be paying Facebook to use, the conferencing. Instead of paying Apple, every time you do a microtransaction in a game, you'd be paying Facebook. Things like those. Anytime you go watch virtual sports events, let's say you would pay a couple dollars in fees to Facebook. They would be at the top of food chain, and this would be extremely, extremely profitable for them. So, is this too crazy to actually happen? I don't know. Personally, I see the vision. I see it can actually happen. And if so, at the current price, $433, right? P ratio in the low 20s, this company is a steal still. They have years and years of growth ahead of them, and I can imagine a scenario where they would pass not only Apple, but also Amazon and Google as the most valuable company in the world. I don't know if it's going to happen, right? We're kind of dreaming big here, but let me know in the comments what you guys think. This is why I'm investing in Facebook. I'm not a big shareholder, of course, but I want to add more and more as time goes by. And I don't expect necessarily to, you're not going to get as much of a return necessarily on a company like this that's already worth 1 trillion. It's a lot more difficult to steer the ship, right? It's a lot more difficult for the company to go from 1 trillion to 2 trillion than from one of the small caps to go from, let's say, 10 million in revenues to 20 million in revenues. However, you are getting something very, very solid with this company since they already proven the model, right? They're already very, very profitable. So your investment is much safer than with a very, very speculative small company. So that's my opinion on it, right? Ideally, I've said it many times in the Patreon and Discord. If the company could go back to under 300, that's when I would probably buy fairly heavy. For now, I'm just buying 5 shares at a time. So that's about $1,700 at the current prices. Every week or two, I've been buying 5 shares and adding to my portfolio. So I know that it sounds like a small number, but the prices are fairly expensive. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. Am I dreaming big with this company? Like, is this all baloney? Or do you think it's actually sounds pretty realistic when you see all the things that they're putting together to make this project work? Let me know what you guys think. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.